Just 4 years ago, Americans were full of hope when they elected the idealistic Barack Obama as president. Since then, Obama's popularity has spiralled and he's now struggling for re-election. One of his biggest challenges is a Supreme Court ruling making this the first US poll in which private corporations are allowed to finance campaigns. Super PACs, as they're known, can spend limitless money to support individual candidates. And as North America correspondent Michael Brissenden reports, never-ending campaign funds can be a real game changer.
It's the start of a long, hot summer of campaigning. At this level, the business of politics looks much like it always has. But this election promises to be unlike any other.
There will be a torrent of outside money in this year's elections in a way that we haven't seen in a presidential race before.
In 2012, I'm expecting to see about an $8 to $10 billion campaign.
This explosion in political spending is a direct consequence of a controversial decision by the Supreme Court back in January 2010, known as Citizens United versus the United States.
She makes herself sound like she has diplomatic experience.
The case began as a small challenge to the law that sets limits on corporate spending behind campaign ads.
Citizens United wanted to run what they considered a documentary film about Hillary Clinton called Hillary the Movie.
Hillary is really the closest thing we have in America to a European socialist.
She is steeped in controversy, steeped in sleaze.
It was just attacking her, calling her a European socialist, lesbian, every bad name they could think of. And they wanted to advertise it on television and use corporate money to pay for the ads.
They were very critical of her conduct and very skeptical about whether she would make a good president. But under our laws, that was banned.
James Bopp Jr. is the man credited with changing the nation's political landscape, a long-time campaigner against campaign spending limits and the main legal advisor to Citizens United.
Now it's quite clear that our laws cannot distinguish or discriminate based on speakers. In other words, allowing individuals to speak out about politicians but prohibiting groups.
In a 5-4 majority decision, the 5 Conservative judges on the Supreme Court agreed that the right to free speech guaranteed by the First Amendment had been curtailed by bans on corporate financing of campaigns and elections that had been in place for decades. Corporations and unions, they said, should have the same right to free speech as individuals. It was a significant shift in principle and one with dramatic consequences.
Citizens United is the most devastating court decision we've seen since Dred Scott back in the Civil War era. This was phenomenal.
The equivalence of corporate and individual liberty is central to the decision, and one that activist groups like Public Citizen take particular issue with.
The U.S. Constitution is we the people. It isn't we the corporations. And corporations are not people. That's just, even silly to consider corporations people.
Almost immediately, the curious political entity known as the Super Political Action Committee was born. These super PACs are funded by corporations and wealthy individuals.
They need to be legally independent. They can't coordinate with the campaigns, but they're often run by close allies of each candidate.
The super PACs can spend unlimited amounts of money on political ads provided they don't directly coordinate with a candidate. President Obama described it as a major victory for big oil, Wall Street banks and other powerful interests. Analysts and commentators cited the potential for the flood of big money to corrupt democracy itself. Political historians here agree on one thing: the ruling has changed politics in America.
Because these groups are closely aligned and aren't bound by contribution limits, the whole foundation of the post-Watergate campaign finance system is being washed away.
So what, say supporters of the change?
So what? So it's unlimited. I mean, we don't have enough spent. And so the more that is spent, the better. That means there's more information for voters to make a decision.
Newt has a ton of baggage, like the fact that Gingrich was fined $300,000 for ethics violations.
There are no limits on what can be spent, and it seems there are no limits on what can be said either. The most public manifestation of the change came this year during the Republican primary race. Every candidate had a super PAC, but the super PAC supporting Mitt Romney and the one behind Newt Gingrich in particular slugged it out with highly produced attack ads.
It works fairly well to have this outside bad cop that can run the political hits that are necessary to define the opposition without making either presidential candidate stand up and take responsibility for it.
Governor, I wish you would calmly and directly state it is your former staff running the PAC, it is your millionaire friends giving to the PAC, and you know some of the ads aren't true. Just say that, straightforward.
As you know, under the law, I can't direct their ads. Oh, Speaker, hold on a second. I can't direct their ads. If there's anything in them that's wrong, I hope they take it out. I hope everything that's wrong is taken out. Everything corporations earn ultimately goes to people.
The Gingrich super PAC hit back with this, a half-hour documentary depicting Mitt Romney as an evil vulture capitalist.
A story of greed, playing the system for a quick buck. A group of corporate raiders led by Mitt Romney. More ruthless than Wall Street.
Of course, the focus has now shifted to the presidential race itself. Both Romney and Obama will have well-funded super PACs working behind them. But the critics fear the biggest impact will be felt in the congressional contests. There are now 600 super PACs established across the country, more than there are members of Congress.
It is highly corrupting, and it literally is where corporations are buying office holders. It's literally the senator from Chevron Oil and the congressman from Boeing Corporation.
But James Bopp, for one, says the laws are clear and so now are the constitutional freedoms, even if the money at this stage is flowing to the Republican candidates by a factor of 4 to 1.
I mean, all the mainstream media in the United States are liberal. They're supportive of Obama. We need more money in the political system, particularly on the conservative side, to level the playing field.
Mitt Romney. He made millions off companies that went bankrupt.
Tell President Obama we need jobs, not more insider deals.
Like a lot of contentious Supreme Court rulings, this has become a partisan debate. But given the amount of money that's about to be unleashed on political advertising, everyone would agree on one thing. It's going to be a good time to be running a regional television station.
Action and LCD Victory Fund are responsible for the content of this advertising.